Hello, this is Dean Radin, and I'm on Your Superior Self.
Hi, I'm Anita Murjani, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hello, this is Dr. Raymond Moody, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hi, Cultural Creatives. I'm Bruce Lipton, and I'm here to join you with Your Superior Self.
Hi, this is Paul Selig, and this is Your Superior Self.
What's up, everybody? I'm Aubrey Marcus, and this is Your Superior Self.
This is Donna Bond, and this is Your Superior Self.
Donna, thank you for taking the time. I know that you're very busy at helping evolve consciousness down in Costa Rica. I'm so jealous of you. I'm kind of glad it's raining, but but thank you for taking the time to hang out with me today. I'm really excited about this conversation that we're going to have.
My honor, Trey. Thank you for inviting me.
Spiritual psychology. How do you get into that?
How do you get into that? Well, so when I was 44, I was sort of at the top of my career. I was working for the Ritz-Carlton, and it all looked really pretty and shiny and perfect on the surface. And deep down, I was really miserable for a lot of reasons. And I went to a psychic, which I have done many, many, many times before in my life. I was sort of in the closet with my spirituality. It was always my love, my aliveness. But I didn't really talk about it, because it wasn't okay to talk about things, all things spiritual in the corporate arena. So anyways, I did this on the weekends. I went to go see this psychic, and I was crying to her that I have to find my purpose. And she said, Donna, your guides are spelling it out for me. Spiritual psychology. And I said, what in the hell is spiritual psychology? And she said, there's 3 universities that offer a program in spiritual psychology. And she gave me the name of 2 of them. And we got distracted talking about something else, and she never gave me the name of the 3rd one. And so I went home and I consulted the Oracle, and I Googled it and found my way to the University of Santa Monica, which was offering a master's program in spiritual psychology. Doctors Ron and Mary Holnick, who you should definitely invite on your show without question. You should invite them on your show. They are the innovators, the pioneers of spiritual psychology. They have been shaping the field for the past 40 years, and they are still very active. And at the University of Santa Monica, facilitating a program called Soul-Centered Living. And so anyways, I found out about all of this, and it seemed completely insane that I would enroll myself in a master's program in spiritual psychology because I was a corporate marketing executive in hospitality, working 60 hours a week. I had a very full plate. I didn't have a whole lot of time for anything else. And my ego and my personality had 101 reasons why I should not do something like that and go into a program like that. And this really brilliant admissions counselor said to me, why don't you come for 1 weekend and just see what happens? And that changed my entire life in every possible way that I could. So spiritual psychology is really a technology. It's a conversation modality, if you will. But it invites us to see our life through the spiritual context or through the lens of our higher self. And when we see the world through the lens of our higher self, we recognize that everything that's happening in our life is a beautifully designed opportunity being given to us for our own growth, learning, evolution, giving us the stepping stones that we need to move into our next level of potential or really fulfill our personal mission of what we came here to grow through in this life.
Mm, that's so interesting. University of Santa Monica. I just came back from LA 2-3 months ago. Loved it out there. First time on the West Coast. We stayed in Santa Monica.
Yeah.
Went on the pier. Went on the beaches. Like I miss it. It's weird because I've never been on the West Coast. It was almost like I don't know. I don't know if it was like an energy attunement for me or if it
Yeah.
was like a homecoming from I don't know. I can't even explain it. There's like a longing there. Like I go to my meditations and I'm sitting on the beach and like I feel grounded and energetic and really just in touch with that higher self part of part of me. Of course, in the background, there's the pier and the carousel and all of the lights. And I mean, maybe it was just because we had a fascinating time, but
Do you know what astrocartography is?
no idea.
So, astrocartography is understanding at the time of your birth where the energy lines of each of the planets are geographically.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you're describing might be that you have some really important astrological lines that run through California.
Mm.
And that's why there's this resonance for you. It's so interesting that you describe it that way because I just left there after 20 years. And there was something like even the minute I touched down at LAX, it was like, I'm right where I belong. I'm home, And that's not where I was born. I was born on the East Coast. But I really get what you're saying. And there is definitely something about.
There's something about it.
Yeah.
The mountains, maybe the beach. I mean, be able to get up and work in LA, or if you're working remote, even in like Manhattan Beach or Venice or Santa Monica or whatever, to get up at like 6:30, 7 o'clock, go surfing, go for a run, go work out, and then go to your job in a city that is literally on a beach with an ocean, and to have the sunsets. Like on the East Coast, we don't have we have sunsets obviously, but we don't have sunsets that set on the ocean because we're on the East Coast. Like we see the sunrise. Like I get up early just to see that, but like over there, it's like you're having dinner every night and you can see the sunset, and it's beautiful and magnificent and energetic and powerful. And it just seems like everyone's doing their own thing, and they're doing their own thing 100%. Like it's crazy. I mean, trust me, there are some definitely downsides too, but I mean, energetically, I just, ever since I've come back, I just feel different. Like, I don't know if it's the world too, like the consciousness that we're stepping into. Energetically though, I feel different. So yeah, I mean, when you talk about that, like when I've listened to a couple of your interviews and talking about you coming back to Cali, like I resonate with that 100%. But you said you were 40 when all of this started taking place for you, or 44?
44.
What was the catalyst, right, to trigger you going to see a psychic?
I was miserable. I was experiencing so much discontent. I didn't know it at the time, but I had cancer growing in my body, in my chest, in my breast. I was very repressed. I really believe that life will set up for us the opportunity to break us out of our own mold if we're unwilling to do it ourselves. And I was getting forced, like energetically getting forced out of the space that I was in because I had to show up to do this. And it was such a departure from where I was. Like I grew up in hospitality. I started working in restaurants when I was 16, and in my 20s went to Johnson and Wales University in Rhode Island and got a degree in hotel restaurant management, and followed that buy-in from your parents, like you pick one thing and you got to do that for the rest of your life, and it's all about hard work and sacrifice, and I bought into all of it, and I was slowly dying, literally dying, because I needed to express myself in a different way, in a way that was truly authentic for me. And when I went to the University of Santa Monica, that was the container and the permission and the support that I needed to figure out who I really was, how I really wanted to live, the truth about the belief systems that I had and the lies about the belief systems that I had. And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with spiritual psychology. I fell in love with coaching and this work. I'm rambling.
No, you're good. Do they certify you like when you come out of that program as a coach, or is it just you have a degree, master's degree in spiritual psychology?
I also have a coaching certification from them. Unfortunately, there's no more brick and mortar. And the professors are facilitating only an online experience now. They're no longer issuing a master's program, but they are offering a program called Soul-Centered Living. But I got the 2-year master's in spiritual psychology, and then I went on to get the emphasis in consciousness, health, and healing, which was year number 3. Then I went on to year number 4 and got the coaching certification. And then I went on to year number 5 and got the soul-centered facilitation certification. So I guess I'm a little bit of a lifer, but it's not a straight line, as I know that you know.
Sure, it's not linear, right? I mean, is the evolution of consciousness ever linear, right? Like, I don't think so. I mean, mine hasn't been. Mine has been zigzag, like crazy. I mean, I'm still kind of figuring it out. Like, I'm sure you are too. I don't think we all ever just figure it out.
As long as we're in these bodies.
Exactly, right? Well, speaking to your point that we're in these bodies, what kind of modalities are there that you work with that help us connect with that higher self?
Well, I work with spiritual psychology, and it's one in which you really understand the patterns and the belief systems of your ego and your personality, and begin to separate that from the truth of your higher authentic self, which is really just comprised of love. And even that sort of minimizes the experience that we can really have of our true nature. But that is my sole focus and the only modality that I work with, in addition to my own innate gifts.
Can you hear your higher self speak through you when you get into that space or into that zone?
Yes, I experience myself as a channel, and sometimes stuff's coming out of my mouth and I'm like, who's saying that? True. Like, that's honestly what happens.
Is that any time, or is that like in certain meditative states, altered states of consciousness?
Yeah. So I am very like devotional and ritualistic about the way in which that I coach. I really acknowledge the spirit world. I acknowledge that I have guides and angels and teachers and masters that are working with me, through me, and as me. And I call them in. And when I am complete with a coaching session, I close that energetic space in the same way that I open it. And I don't know, it's like a zone, I guess is the best way really to describe it. Where I am very clairsentient. So I like have a lot of sensation, physical sensation in my body that is interpreting what's happening in the energetic and the spiritual world. So I feel energy moving through me as I'm having conversation with a client.
Mhm.
And the more present I am, the more work I feel like is happening through me, where I really try to keep my ego and personality out of it.
So when you channel that information, is it the entities that are working through you? Is it their information for your client, or is it just kind of for both of you? Like, what is that?
What an interesting question. Well, coaching is very much a two-way exchange. There's this beautiful reciprocity that happens, and largely in part because life is our mirror, right? And this is universal law, right? So everything that's happening with the client is a reflection of what's happening inside of me. And so there's this cool synergy and this cool reciprocity that happens. And that's why you got to love this, right? To do it.
Is it work to you anymore? Like, do you feel like it's work
No,
doing this work? Is it work doing the work?
it is and it's not. It is and it's not. It is when I'm doing my own work, when I'm doing my own inner work, right? Because then I have to take 100% responsibility for the experience that I'm having inside of myself. And, you know, when you're sitting with a client, when I'm sitting with a client, I just get to be that mirror in a really loving, compassionate, judgment-free space that is supporting them in seeing their blind spots and supporting them in looking at things that maybe they need a lot of courage to look at, or that they don't really want to look at.
Shadow, right?
Yeah.
It is tough. I feel like a lot of that, like especially now as I transition into like a different energetic field, which I feel it really physically in my body. Like the only way I can describe it is like in a rainstorm or a heavy downpour when you walk past like electrical lines and you hear that zapping. I feel like my body does that like sporadically through the day, like, and it's weird. Like it's all like I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to explain it. All I can, it wasn't until I started reading a little bit more of Dolores Cannon's work where she talks about different energetic changes to the body and feeling it in the body. And I was like, holy crap, that's what's going on with me. I think that's what's going on with the world, really. Actually,
Yes.
you're seeing, because of a lot of the chaos is a lot of the world's, the collective shadow coming up. And that's what happens, happening for me. And I think a lot of different people who live around me, we're experiencing a lot of different distresses in our reality. And I think it's because, like, to your point, that our reality is a mirror. Like when you're doing the shadow work or energetic and having energetic changing, and that shadow starts coming up, it starts reflecting in your physical reality, but it has to, for you to filter that. I want to get your thoughts on that. Like, does that sound like
Yeah. So
similar?
here's my theory on this. So you know how everything is frequency, everything has a vibration to it. All of our emotions also have a frequency and a vibration to it. Our true nature is vibrating at this really super high frequency, right? Of, some people say it's 500. Who knows? You can get into all the science of measuring those things. And I'm certainly not an expert in being able to speak to that. But conceptually, the higher the vibration goes on the planet, the more essentially I think it has to burn away everything that's not that. And as we are experiencing a mass global transformation of consciousness, and people are waking up, people are finding their way through the shadow and stepping more fully into higher consciousness and waking up, right? This is what happened to you. You woke up. Well, this is happening all over the planet now. And so everything that's not that sort of has to get burned away because it's not a vibrational match. It's like literally at a completely different frequency. I don't know if this is making sense or if I'm articulating it in a way that's understandable, but
No, I
the
think
way that I see it
right.
is it's like pushing the crap to the surface, right? Because there's no room for it at the high frequency that we are all moving towards, and that is towards our true self.
Sure. And when you say that, pushing the crap to the top of the surface, like I can think about in Baltimore here, we have the Inner Harbor, and we have like the trash boat that comes by and collects everything on the surface. I'm just waiting for that trash boat to come by and like clean the stuff that's on my surface, because it just feels like a lot of stuff is coming up and it's showing in my reality. Like it's reflecting back, but I know it's a process, and I'm relying heavily on my tools that I've developed over the years, just like through meditation and being present in the moment and focusing on my breath. Like that's gotten me through a lot of it, really. What does your practice look like as far as, being grounded in the moment? Is it meditation?
Yeah, I have a very devoted practice. I do yoga every morning, and then I meditate for about 30 minutes every morning, 7 days a week, 365. I don't know if I think I'm on like year 8.
Any like mind-blowing experiences of like, I don't know, third eye visualizations, like insane downloads that have been like synchronistic in your life?
A million.
Yeah.
Here's what I want to share though with you, Trey, that I think will be meaningful and helpful. And as we're all encountering, all the crap that's getting, kicked up to the surface, the opportunity that we have to move through it is through the lens of spiritual psychology, through the lens of our higher self. And when we can see something from a neutral place, meaning we're not judging it as right or wrong, good or bad, up or down, black or white, when we can just see it for what it is, then we don't create the resistance that then creates the internal suffering that we go through when we want something to be different.
So you can objectively look at it, right? And not identify with it, but just observe it as an experience.
Yes. Love that. Very well put. Very well said. But this is a way that we can release ourselves from the suffering that we go through when we want it to be different. And when we can come into cooperation in that neutral place inside of ourselves, where we see everything as neutral, we automatically become present. And actually, you have to be present to be in that place. Things look different. We then receive different information. We're able to interpret things different, and we make different choices because we're not caught up in our own judgments of the way we think something should be or shouldn't be.
I love all of that. And my heart is really guiding me through this right now, because it's like I'm trying to be in my heart center more instead of the analytical brain. And all I want to talk about is like God consciousness, right? Like, how do we achieve that? Like, or can we stay in it long enough to like recreate our reality frames? And it's like there's desire, right? There's desire. I feel like there's a pull. Like, I don't know if you can relate to this or not. Like, I feel like there's a pull for me in certain areas in my life that are uncomfortable. Like, but I know that it's for a greater good for me to be doing these things, like with a podcast or pursuing psychology, counseling, hypnotherapy, or anything like that. And I feel a pull towards it. And it's like there's I don't want to say it's like an ego kind of ego gratification where I got to go do this to be, on a certain level, but it's like a pulling from the heart, saying like a knowing almost.
Yes.
And I didn't put it there, right? Like I just felt like I didn't, the personality didn't. I feel like it's like a voice almost. It's like, keep going, keep going, keep going. And
Yes.
I don't know how else to describe it. And I feel like, I don't know if people feel the same way in their lives where they, are in a particular job that they dislike, or maybe in a relationship that isn't, going the way that they thought, or whatever, but they have this pull in a different direction. Do you help them in your coaching capacity to understand what that pull is and where it's coming from and how to follow it?
Yes.
And how do you do that?
You got to get out of your own head.
Mhm.
You got to have to give yourself permission to do things that are illogical. Give yourself permission to follow that line of energy, even when it may not make any sense at all. And this is where I think we really get in our own way. And, I definitely grew up in a family that we were always trying to prove ourselves, right? And so we were very mental, very like, you had to have the right answer, you had to be the smartest person in the room. And we were taught essentially to rely on our IQ, right? Our mental capacities, completely overlooking the fact that we have all of these other intelligences, right? We have this emotional body and this physical body and our spiritual body. And these are all other forms of intelligence that we all embody.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we can begin to recognize that we get this guidance and this information through other channels, essentially, right? Through your heart, you're talking about your emotions. I have this pull that I can't I can't explain it, but it's there. I didn't conjure it up, but I'm going to follow it.
Mm-hmm. But there's also like a fear associated with that as well. Like, am I doing the right thing? Am I, like you said, I'm in my head, and there's the old small self saying, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? There's no reason for you to even think that you can achieve X, Y, and Z, trying to keep you down.
Yes.
And because we're conscious, and maybe because we don't feel, when we're in our conscious personality, I don't know about you, but I feel like I don't feel sometimes like I'm connected with the higher self, right? Like, I don't know if it's because of the conscious mind and the separation and the duality of the whole nature of being human, but it's like, I don't, there are times where I forget.
All day, babe. I think that's why our meditation is called a practice. You know what I mean? That's why yoga is called a practice. I'm a student of spiritual psychology, right? I'm not an expert. I am practicing with myself, with my clients, and that's what we can do. It's a remembering, it's a return. It's a return to what's always been here the whole time, but we thought we lost it
Sure.
or we forgot about it.
Sure.
But it's always here.
Does the universe give you signs that you're on your path?
Oh, I definitely think so.
Yeah.
I definitely
Is
think
that
so.
is that what the apple is on your website?
So I was, I think, at my first year at USM, and I was reading Pam Grout's book, E Squared, 9 Do-It-Yourself Experiments That Prove Your Thoughts Create Your Reality. And as a joke, I said, okay, universe, bring me an apple. Because it was like one of these experiments where you demand something from the universe that you have no attachment to. And that's a very key indicator in the experiment. So I was like, bring me an apple. And this was on a Sunday night. Monday morning, I got on an airplane to go to the Ritz-Carlton Global Exchange Leadership Conference. And I was reading a book, a different book now, called Finding Your Element by Ken Robinson. And I was really excited about that book because I've been looking for my element, since I was 15 and hadn't found it yet and still hadn't found it. Even though I'm like moving through this master's program, I'm still very much in hospitality marketing. I have no clue that I'm, headed in the direction of doing consciousness work. And if you had told me at the time that I would have been doing this work, I would have said, there's no possible way. There's no way. So anyways, I'm reading this book and I had a massive epiphany, a massive intervention with God as I was reading this book. And this is all in my book. But I was given a divine dose of clarity that crystallized the truth for me that I needed to quit my job. Even though I didn't have a plan, I didn't have a clue, I had a frozen shoulder at the time, which was a really gorgeous metaphor for where I was in my life, because I knew I was unhappy, but I wasn't doing anything about it. I was stuck. I was frozen. And so it was just such a gorgeous outward manifestation of where I was. And as I was reading this book, I got to this little poem by Elizabeth Appel called Risk. And then the day came when the risk to remain tight in the bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. And when I read that, I felt like my shoulder was that bud. And I had this experience that was like a full body experience of having to break free of that. And literally had this dose of divine guidance and wound up sobbing in my seat on this airplane while I'm on my way to this conference. I got off that plane with complete clarity that I was going to quit my job. And it didn't matter that I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a clue. I just knew that I had to do it to get my life moving, forward. So I made my way through the conference, and it was the very last night. And there's a big awards dinner, and my name was called to the stage where I was the recipient of the Western Regional Marketing Achievement Award for the 3rd consecutive year in a row. And as I'm walking back to my seat, my dinner seat, I have this award in my arms, and I'm knowing that I get to go out on top. You know what I mean? I'm even more confident about the decision that I've made inside of
Mm-hmm.
myself. And I sit down and they've just served dessert. And dessert is this incredibly elaborate apple extravaganza. And it's like green apple sorbet and apple confit and apple this and apple that. And you have to love the Ritz-Carlton because they give you the menu card. And if they hadn't given me the menu card, I might have missed it. But the description of this apple extravaganza has been put in front of me. And in that moment, I knew that the universe was speaking directly to me and was nodding to me that I am making the right choice. I am making the right decision, and to keep going and to keep going. And so I did end up resigning my position, stepping down from the role that I was in with the Ritz-Carlton. I hung out a shingle as a marketing consultant for about 1.5 years, which was a bridge really that I built for myself, which was very necessary financially. It was necessary just like for my ego to feel safe, that I wasn't completely losing sight of who I was. And while I was doing that, I was guided by the universe into coaching.
How did the universe guide you?
Well, this is another crazy story. We had to do a service project at the University of Santa Monica, and I can't remember how many hours it was. I don't know, 56 hours or something. We had to donate our time. And I was at the Ojai Valley Inn Resort, sitting around with a bunch of my girlfriends. And I got the idea that I would support some of these women with marketing their business and helping them feel more confident and more empowered to become solopreneurs. Now, I'm a big corporate marketing executive at the time that this is happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I dream up this idea and present it to the University of Santa Monica. And they denied my request. Like that wasn't okay with them, that's what I wanted my service project to be. But I had already committed to a woman that I would help her. Mm-hmm. And I'm a woman of my word. So I kept my promise to this woman that I would still do this for her, even though now I have to go find another 56-hour service project, right? I'm still working my 60-hour-a-week job, like while all of this is happening. And I started coaching her. And as I started coaching her, I was recognizing that I was being used as a channel, that I was having an experience of spirit working through me. And magic happened for her, and magic happened for me. And I absolutely fell in love with being in these super intimate, very sacred, loving conversations to support people in stepping out of their own fears and moving towards whatever those energies are that their heart are pulling them towards.
Heart desires, for sure. What is that like? So I'm so intrigued by the channeling part, because it's like, do you notice, like, do you consciously know that you're channeling, or you just kind of get into a flow state and just information starts flowing through you? Does like your voice change? Like, does it?
No,
it's just,
it's sometimes there is a little bit of a voice change detection that I can experience, that just feels super grounded. I just feel super present, super grounded. It is like a stream of consciousness. That's probably the best way to describe it. I'm not like completely checked out. I'm very aware of what's going on. My personality is there on the sidelines observing, everything that's happening. And it also doesn't happen necessarily for the whole block of time that I'm coaching. I usually work with people for about in 90-minute clips.
Yeah. How long does it take you to get into that state?
I don't know. It's different all the time, Trey. It's always different.
I would love to experience that. Like, can we do that now? Can we set that up? I mean, I'm not trying to put you on a spot, but I just think I love like experimenting with consciousness. Like, I love to be able to feel what one of your clients would feel like. I mean,
What would you like to receive coaching on?
I don't know. I mean, I just want to experience like the channeling the higher self from Donna Bond. I mean, I would love to receive coaching on like next steps, for me in personal spirituality, or I guess it's spirituality. Like, how do I connect with my higher self more and receive guidance and knowledge and wisdom from the universe?
Well, Trey, when you go inside yourself, when you get really quiet and you listen to that pull, what comes forward for you as a next step?
When I go to that quiet place and I shut it all down, what comes to me as far as next steps?
What could be a possible next step?
Possible next step. I mean, just doing this more is for me. It's just lining up more, talented guests, insightful guests. I mean, this is where my joy is right here. I mean, just resonating with you and sharing this intimate space with you, and totally opening myself up and being vulnerable for the audience, and just being as authentic as possible, right? Like,
so what prompts the question then around wanting to find next steps?
Because I want to take this to the next level, like my next step, or I guess the how, I guess, is the next step, or the question rather, like, how do you take it to the next level?
The how is actually not up to us. Yeah, there's actually a chapter in my book that's called Hang Up the How. And our job is to get really clear about the what and the why. What do you want? What do you want to experience? And why do you want to experience it? Because when we go into how, we go into doing. And when we go into doing, our ego and our personality have to get involved, because that's the part of us that does the doing here in physical world reality. But when we can vision what we would love to experience and bring in as much clarity as we can around that, the universe goes to work on our behalf and starts lining up, right? The right people, the right doors open, the synchronicities start happening, all of the things start coming into flow, and they just seem to happen miraculously because we have clarity around the what and the why.
Mm-hmm. But I feel like there's trigger points, right? Like, your trigger point that set all of this in motion, I think, was you quitting your job. Now, I can't necessarily do that just because of my circumstances, and a lot of people listening can't do that as well. But I feel like there are trigger points, or maybe actions that we can do, right, that set something in motion.
Absolutely. And those trigger points are activated by those pulls that you have. And my trigger point was not quitting my job. Quitting my job was like a couple of rungs down on the ladder. The trigger point for me, the first one, was following the advice of a psychic. What? Like,
Yeah.
really? You know what I mean? It was following the advice of a psychic and enrolling myself in a program that seemingly made no sense in my life and made no sense in my life at the time.
Mm-hmm.
None. You know, quitting the job came later. But so what did I know? I knew that I was experiencing a lot of discontent doing what I was doing. I knew that I wanted to make a more meaningful contribution to my own life and to the world. I knew that I wanted more freedom. I wanted to be my own boss. There were like core pillars that held together the pieces of something that I wanted, even though I couldn't see the whole architecture of it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it was aligning myself, being really clear with myself about those pillars, that then the universe came along and said, well, I've got the perfect thing, you know, spiritual psychology. And that's literally what ended up happening. So what are your pillars?
Oh, man. The pillars of success. I feel like my pillars, obviously my foundation is all spirituality. It's consciousness. It's like interacting with that. That's like my curiosity is sparked by just like, what are we? Who are we in relationship to the universe? Like, are we the universe? Are we just aspects of the universe? Are we aspects of God? Are we God? Are we capable of actually recreating our reality to meet our heart's desires? Can we? I mean, those are the questions that are burning inside of me. Like, I mean, you know, I mean, a lot of the literature, you know, like a lot of the spiritual literature, you know, are right around that the medium point of, you know, we are definitely associated with God consciousness in some way. There's, you know, you're never ever going to be able to prove it, right? Unless you've had some kind of subjective experience that is, you know, specific to you, right? Big truth is only your truth in a subjective way. And the way that I experience consciousness and the universe is through my meditations, in which I've had incredible moments, experiences through my meditation that I can't explain, but, you know, to me, seeking my truth really and defining that is like what really fires me up. My foundation is all, you know, as far as pillars, it's being truthful to myself. It's being open-minded to all different aspects of truth that there could possibly be that I'm not really conscious of right now. It's kind of like being spoon-fed truth. You know what I mean? Like I can only accept so much right now because where I'm at, and being open for more. And just kind of, I think what I what I really need to work on, you know, we all need to work on stuff, but for me, it's more of like letting go a bit and having more faith and trust, instead of finding more actions, if that makes sense.
Yes, beautiful. What a great awareness. What a great awareness. So it isn't really about next steps. Maybe it's about taking your hands off the wheel.
Yeah.
Letting the universe drive. What would happen if you did that?
I don't know. I don't know. There's that, you know, that resistance, that wall there, right? Like if I, you know, because I've been conditioned that if you're not in control, you lose control almost, right?
Mhm.
So I don't know. I mean, in a perfect world, I would love to know that if you take your hands, let go of the rope, that there will be a net.
I want to quote Richard Rudd, who channeled the Gene Keys. He said, the more you begin to trust the divine unknowing, the more your life resolves itself effortlessly and beautifully. And a natural process of deconditioning begins to take place inside you.
Wow.
When I read that, it was such truth for me in my life. And in my experience, that is what happens. The more we let go, the more we trust the unknown. We haven't talked about how I got to Costa Rica. Costa Rica picked me. I'm a California girl all day long, but for whatever reason, here I am. And the more I have taken my hands off the wheel, the more the patterns that were so ingrained in my personality have gotten a thread pulled out of them. You know what I mean? They have like literally unraveled. And in that unraveling, there's so much freedom. There's so much light. There's so much joy. And, we realize that we've been living our whole life in this little tiny box, but there's a whole world if we would just step outside of that. And we always want to get everything all set up and lined up, and we got to have our, 10-point plan and understand our return on the investment and how long it's going to take and what's the exit strategy. But that's the ego. That's the personality trying to feel safe. But our spirit is safe always, because it's eternal and infinite.
Donna Bond, this has gone by way too quick. How can people reach you? How can they connect with you? How can they buy the book?
Yeah, donnabond.com. You can get the book on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, anywhere you can buy books. Original Wisdom, Harness the Power of the Authentic You.
This has been a beautiful conversation. Thank you for taking me on as a client for 30 minutes. I feel I feel moved. I definitely feel a huge shift in my awareness. Thank you for that.
I want to invite you to come sit with me, come do a coaching session with me. And I usually don't announce this on podcasts for obvious reasons, but I offer a 90-minute complimentary coaching conversation. If you spend a little bit of time on my website, you'll eventually find your way to that. So if you go to donnabond.com, just click on the button that says start your coaching journey today, and you'll find my calendar. And I would love to sit with you, Trey.
This is awesome. Donna, thank you so much for taking the time. We got to do this again sometime.
Thank you so much. It's been my honor.